amazed when he got hot, he could still keep it kind of right here and be effective. While they were elevating, he was keeping it right here. That's pretty amazing. You got it. Yeah.
All right. So what have you learned this week? Anything?
Yeah, I learned about boundaries. Just understanding boundaries and how important they are for you to, establish them in relationships. Because fundamentally, I believe life is about relationships and good ones, healthy ones. But for them to be healthy, you have to have boundaries. So then you don't get, you don't explode because you're repressing stuff.
Mm.
And then too, that keeps them, the people that you're in relationships with, understanding your boundaries, and then they make they adapt to it, or they knowingly or unknowingly cross it, and then I have to restate what the boundary is. And then if they do it again, then I realize these people have to be moved further to the outskirts.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, I love that. And from nonviolent communication, which I have another podcast called The Art of NVC, that's huge, the boundaries. And it's almost like that's the whole reason that we have miscommunications or fights and stuff, because someone's not enforcing the boundary. And like you said, this is how life works, right? If you get annoyed and bothered by someone crossing a boundary, first of all, if a boundary that you never told them, women, come on.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't mind readers. It's not only women, but common. Women, like, there's something that upsets them. They don't bring it up. They want you to read their mind. The women that I've had experiences with, not all women. But so, first of all, you have to declare your boundaries. And if someone crosses it and you don't bring it up, you don't talk to them about it, then that feeling in you does not go away. What does it do? It just chills. It hides. It grows in power. It gathers troops. And then the next time, secretly too, the other person doesn't know, troops are gathered. And then the next time they cross that boundary, you might have enough troops to explode and go to war. You're like, rah! And they're like, where's this coming from? It's been building in you. Your troops have been gathering. So this is why it's important to bring up and have uncomfortable conversations. You can't avoid uncomfortable conversations.
No, sir.
You must have them. And hold on. It's too heavy, so we'll bring it back. There we go.
Okay.
You must have uncomfortable conversations to avoid blowing up over, like, disproportionately to the alleged offense or boundary. So just bring up your boundaries. You might have to tell them once or twice. It's fine.
Hey, that's it. I mean, confrontation delayed is confrontation multiplied.
Ooh.
There's just no way around it. So, so basically what we're saying is it's your responsibility to create boundaries for health of relationships. It really is, because I realize that's what's, making relationships hard, especially between men and women, is boundaries aren't upheld. So both parties can get frustrated because conversations weren't had and things blew up or petered out because, the principles weren't right. You weren't living up to what makes relationships successful. And so then you just go your separate ways and nothing happens. You don't build nothing. You don't invest in nothing. Because we got to invest in people, both of us. That's what it's about. To me, if there's more to it than that, please explain it to me, because I'm all ears, but it's really about relationships and healthy relationships and building stuff with people,
So what, can we talk about what was the catalyst for this revelation of boundaries? Was it you that had the boundary, or was it someone else?
Well, it's a lot of what's going on with me. Plus, I'm cleansing now, but I think the cleansing is helping me put a lot of loose ends together and what my problems are, and it has me. I see a lot, but I didn't know how to make the best use of what I believe I see, above average. I see people. I see social situations very clearly. But I didn't know how to use it, and be effective with it. You know what I mean? And I had to understand, when I get frustrated, why that's happening. And I can cut a lot of it out.
A lot of why you're getting frustrated.
Frustrated with just people, and it's getting easier now because I know it's the truth, and you have to, because you got to think it out. You got to listen to people. You got to see it happening. But boundaries are important, and when I let things go too far without bringing it up, then I turn into a ticking bomb. You know what I mean? So
what can we talk about what happened, or no? You don't want to talk about
it? I mean, nothing really, like one thing happened. It's well, I can definitely say, looking in the last 5 years when I started dating more, how I was not understanding women, and now that I understand that it was all my fault because I wasn't setting boundaries.
Bam.
And knowing what I want, because I know who I am. I was just playing, to them, and
too far. And then you're building, irritation was building. Yeah, you're not bringing it up.
I'm not.
And then you would explode.
And then I would just get irritated or explode.
And you drop a grenade.
I drop a grenade, hand grenade. So, yeah.
Do you want to get into the details of the last hand grenade? I think that's good podcast material.
Okay.
We don't use no names.
No names. It's just this is what happened to me from back in Cali too. It's just getting not understanding.
Tell a story. Let's get the details.
Okay, this happened a few times. So I'll say 3 women.
Okay, 3 women
that I start to get their time, and we're starting to hang out, and I am trying to be respectful, and what I think that is to them, just respectful, going slow, this and that, getting to know them, trying to like think what they want, and try to be a good guy, go slow, be respectful, and not receiving what I'm looking for, and so
getting friend zoned, basically.
Getting friend zoned, basically, because you're not making the move, they're not opening the door. And I think, so basically from the past, when you're younger,
when you were younger,
when I was younger, women would make themselves known.
You were cool in high school. You were hanging out with cool dudes. You were good looking. You were smooth, and it was effortless. Almost too easy, right? Sometimes it was scary. It was like throwing in your face.
Too much. Yeah, it was too much, actually. And then, of course, I got a girlfriend through my 20s, so I was in a hardcore relationship for 7 years. And then getting out of it, the world's changing. The dating world is changing. Men and women, how they're dealing with each other has changed. And so in my early 30s, things would come. I would just kind of wait for the easy, low-hanging fruit. Girls who are just into you. You go out, it's down. It's going down. Like, it's all that. And you start getting older after 35, and then you actually have to...
All the low-hanging fruit's already picked. You're like, what?
Well, I think it's all really there. It's just that it wasn't coming the way it used to, and I have to show game. I have to be something other than the young, good-looking guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now I got to get my finances right. I got to be something a woman would want to date. And so I wasn't making that connection. And so I was a little frustrated in that time, and I didn't want to put in any work. My fault.
Let's talk about what happened that one time on 6th Street.
When we were going to go out?
We went out, and I was like, bro, you can't wear these.
Yeah. So I was out of tune with going out because I was way out of tune. And so my cousin Micah here, Tempo.
Tempo.
No.
I mean, Stretch.
My cousin Stretch, was more, he was getting into all this stuff. He was learning the game. He was more advanced. And
I wasn't as smooth as you and popular and like confident. I didn't know myself like you did when you were growing up. So although I did, I met girls, I always had to work a bit. I wasn't like you were like it. You were the shiznit kind of, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was like a bit of an outcast shiznit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't get all that. So I had to put more work. I had more, time spent working.
Right.
The rules.
Yeah. So, and I did. And so so I had to learn the game later. So we're gonna go out, and I haven't been out. I've been in a whole nother zone, and so we're gonna go out, and we're getting ready, and I'm wearing sweats because I've gotten so out of touch with, I've gotten so out of touch with the game,
with what women want and respond to.
Right, and I was letting my grooming go, and I was just kind of, hey, you know what? I should be able to go out, and they should, figure out who I am, and this, and that, and just foolish nonsense that just doesn't work.
He thought he could go out on 6th Street wearing sweatpants, and women were going to see past the sweatpants and understand the gem that he was.
And then Micah, before we even left, so he's looking at me, he goes, no, you cannot go out with that. And I'm like, and I got hurt. I got butt hurt. Okay, and I'm sitting here trying to defend this, what women should see and see beyond, and giving all these bullshit beta arguments, and it just shows you can get so out of touch. You can get so out of touch. And the game is changing constantly, and you just, you have to know what it is, and adapt to it, and don't be a fool and think it's all going to conform to you. So anyway, I'm embarrassed of it because I was literally making arguments with passion, which were ridiculous.
Oh man!
And so I changed and we moved on, and it still took me a long time even after that. But now, grooming and all that stuff is important, and you have to acknowledge what it is. Don't be a fool; you'll be left behind.
Yeah, you got to acknowledge the rules of reality, which is what I have a problem with a lot, and I think a lot of children have, youth have a problem with, is the adults in school and on just around, they're not living in reality. And they try to tell the kids things that they lie. They're like, for instance, they're like, drugs are bad, don't do drugs. Okay, everybody does drugs. 99.9% of the people on the planet Earth, or at least in America, they're gonna do some form of drug. That's reality. Let's live in reality. Instead of saying don't do drugs, I would suggest that we say do drugs properly. They're medicine. Don't do them every day like all of us do. Damn near all of us drinking coffee. That's a drug. Don't fool yourself. Sugar, candy, that's a drug. What is the definition of a drug? Something you ingest that changes how you feel. Okay, but sugar is a low-level drug. It's a poison. So it's a harsh, it's a bigger poison than it is a drug. But there's coffee, there's weed, there's antidepressants, there's alcohol. These are all drugs. Then you got all the other crazy hardcore drugs, cocaine. There's drugs, dude. Everybody does drugs.
And most likely you're doing them all together.
Yeah, you're doing them all. So we should just teach the kids how to do drugs instead of acting like, no, don't do any drugs, which we know is not going to happen. So, we got to live in reality. And when you're dealing with women, men and women, yes, there's just a reality. Women are going to respond to a man that's well-groomed, that is confident, assertive. Most women like a masculine man, unless they're a masculine woman, and then maybe they want a beta, a feminine man. I don't know, but
yeah, and yeah, I mean, we just have to adhere to the rules of life and to buy into fairy tales, because it seems like this culture is making or trying to seduce people into believing in fairy tales because it makes them feel good. But I look at it as it's a war on critical thinking.
Ooh.
Because as I love critical thinking.
Me too.
And so it's a war on that.
Yes.
Because people would rather have fairy tales or the donut instead of the broccoli. Critical thinking is critical thinking. It takes effort. You have to dissect stuff. You have to think about many different aspects of the problem and find and locate it and then create solutions. Mm-hmm. But if you want to believe in fairy tales, well, no, I can see reality on my terms.
No, men can have their period. They cannot.
Men can have babies, meaning a transgender man. So we start playing those games. To me, it's obvious. It's war on critical thinking.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes good rebellion against the powers. Because with our critical thinking, we can balance everything out. There's always going to be powerful people. But if we're critical thinkers, they can't get too powerful. But if we just want to believe those fairy tales.
Man, that's
right?
deep.
And
it's all about the youth. It's all about the adults. We know it's lies, but we're acting like these fairy tales are true. And then the youth, they're not wise enough to know what's true or not true, especially when they're told it so many times. And then they start growing up in this fairy tale land. And the truth is going to slap them in the face sooner or later, but probably after they've already become slaves and made life choices that have made them, hooked up so deeply to the system that it's very hard to break free. As opposed to
you've already, they're here. The fairy tales are here to rewire your brain patterns, so then it's hard to get the pattern back on track, to be effective, to see what reality really is, how it works, how it operates. Nature already embedded in us the blueprint.
Yeah. So we want to talk about reality. That's what we're going to be real on this podcast. As far as we are able to understand and ascertain what the truth is, that's where we go. We don't care if it's inappropriate. The truth is always appropriate.
Right.
So it's always going to be appropriate. We don't care if it's, somewhat uncomfortable.
Right.
Or somewhat against what the woke,
yeah.
AKA the asleep.
You say you're woke, you're asleep.
You're asleep.
You're in deep slumber, REMs, and being told what to do. Yeah. So it's crazy too because, man, I mean, we all want to believe things that make us feel good. I realize how powerful that is. And that's why, you want to know how to get rich? Tell women what they want to hear. You know what I mean? And men. But I'm just saying the women because they're the ones who actually are the biggest purchasers in the market. So you're always trying to get them to, if you want them to buy your product, you tell them what they want to hear. Instead of like, hey, these are the realities that you have to balance that out with. You know what I mean? But to sell to anybody, really, I'm not just saying women, but in men too, you tell them what they want to hear. You know what I mean? And it makes it easier because we want to hear these things. We want to believe there's a God and there's a, heaven and, there's a place, we can go and it's going to be great. Those things make me feel good. I want to believe it. And I'm not even saying they're not true, but I still going to use my critical thinking all the way up until that point.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's okay or cool to lie, right? You can, I think a good salesman, if you're selling something, you could tell people what they want to hear as long as it's true. So you can frame things, to me, as long as it's rooted in truth. Truth is more important than wealth or anything. Right. It is divine. The truth is divine. So if you're lying to your customer, that's not good. I don't care. Then you're not really getting rich. To me, you're getting poorer. And your customers are probably not going to be long-term customers. You're like, oh, it's the best, it's the quick, and it's the last time you ever have to take this and, cure your baldness, one shot. And you're like, oh shit, you buy it and it doesn't work. All right, it doesn't work. But if you're like, listen, this will take this and it will improve the bald spot by maybe 10%. And you have to take it every 3 months, but it will do that. Then you might get a lifelong customer. You know what I mean? So
this is one of my dilemmas though. Like, why do people get fooled? Again, it just goes to more so the question is, why can't people discern that makes me feel good to hear that, but it's not been tested, but then to realize the world you're living in is marketers and advertisers, they know their demographic really well. So, hey, we know they're going to be susceptible to fairy tales. Mm-hmm. And so the real question is, okay, they're doing it knowingly, very specifically.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I just want to make people aware that, people who are advertisers are studying demographics.
And they're hitting you on an emotional level too. That's why they're selling Coke, but it's like these 3 beautiful girls and having great fun with their friends out at the river. So they're hitting you on, that emotional subconscious level. So it's not even like a direct lie. It's just like an implied lie. And then we get that emotional feeling. That's like a cheat code to manipulating humans because we're simple like that. And it's weird. Like, why is anybody fat, right? Why is anybody obese? They know they don't want to be obese. They know that why are they obese? Because they're eating too much. Why don't they just stop eating so much? It's like, it's just not that simple. That's just not the reality we live in. We're emotional beings. We want to feel good now. And we sacrifice the future for the now. And so that's kind of,
And we want to feel good about whatever we're doing, and we want to justify it instead of saying, because I think also outside of the war on critical thinking, it's a war on standards that are here and tried and true, fundamentally undisputed facts. There are some standards, fundamentals. Of course, there's quirks and different nuances to it, but there's fundamental standards to Like you say, obesity. Like if somebody, that's why they want the narrative. Oh, you're big and you should love your curves, and go on that whole narrative that makes you feel good to never change. Or even two, I would even say, because I'm hearing it so much, is the whole manifesting, and they want to believe, well, just manifest it, girl, and that's it. But you forgot the counterpart to manifesting. Active work is the counterpart to manifesting. They got to work together. But they just want to lean into, just think about it the way you want to think about it. And then if somebody's actually giving you some critical advice, I can't let that in my brain, because then the fact that maybe, after 35, I can't have babies. I don't want to think about it that way. It doesn't make me feel good. So I'm going to not see it. You know what I mean? So you want everything on your terms, and you can't understand like what good information is to help you grow. You know what I mean? And bad information is to delay, your growth. Because it's telling, and plus, if you're apt, to actually want to believe that, then it's easier to do that, easier to eat the donut than eat the broccoli. It's always going to be that. So that's mainly one of the questions that we should try to dissect. Like, what is it in us that would rather eat the broccoli and waste time? I mean, eat the donut and waste time and deteriorate, instead of acknowledging that the broccoli doesn't taste as good, but it heals me, it feeds me.
Well, I think it's actually even more complicated too, because if you offer a pure child, like a baby, right? Broccoli, or let's say not even broccoli, like fruit or a donut, it's going to probably eat the fruit. And even maybe the broccoli. But we get hooked on, because when after you cleansed, you don't want to go eat a Hershey's bar because it's too sweet. You're like, ew, it doesn't even, and on when you fast, it doesn't even look like food anymore. You look at it like that looks like art, or looks like,
or because you woke up the second brain, your stomach is now clean, and it looks at that and says, you ain't putting that in.
No, yeah, it doesn't even want it. It's like not even, So we get, but like many parents, they feed their kids poison from day one, and they get hooked on that, and then sometimes it never ends. So it's like a big part of that is we want the donut because we're hooked on sugar, and we're not cleansed. So we can't discern that the broccoli would actually be more rewarding and taste better. So that's why cleansing is so important.
Right. Everybody,
I don't care who you are, we all need to cleanse regularly. No matter how healthy your lifestyle is. And let's be real, it probably is not that healthy. It's just not. It's a toxic world. You got to cleanse. You got to take a break from the toxicity. And I'm telling myself too, because I'm due. I'm overdue for my own cleanse. I've done many cleanses. They're all amazing. Tempo right now is on a cleanse. Mm-hmm. What's the cleanse you're doing right now?
It's called Purium. And basically it's just like you get one meal a day, and they have the rules of what that meal can be. But in the meantime, they're kind of giving you amino acid tablets, just enough to feed your body so you have energy with the highest level nutrients, just amino acids, things that are certain cleanses for your stomach. And it basically gives me just enough control to not feed into my impulses. Like I'm smelling stuff. It's like, oh God, I want to eat that. I want to tear into that burger. But then I was like, the cleanse is, and I guess there's a bunch of herbs and all that stuff that are just keeping my stomach kind of calm. So I just can muster up enough discipline not to fall into the trap and get over the hump, right? And so it's good. It's but I'm going to also mix this up with like 36-hour fast so I can hit my objective 170 in March or April.
Boom. And how long does you do Purium for? The whole time, or it's like a month-long thing? Or what?
You do it all. I bought 2 months worth.
Okay.
And I can even split that up, because now once I get going, then I can still just do one meal a day, maybe eat some fruits if I don't want to do the Purium, and then go back on the Purium. You know what I mean? So go ahead.
What are the rules of the food?
No bread, basically.
Boom.
No bread. I can eat potatoes. I can eat, chicken, beef, one meal, but that's it. It's
no bread, no crackers, no. What about rice?
No rice.
No starchy cooked stuff.
Just potatoes is the only thing that, which is fine with me. It's basically bread with water in it.
Yeah.
And then I've been loving the sweet potato too. I've been doing the sweet potato too. So just meat, broccoli or some kind of vegetable, and some sweet potato or regular potato.
And fruit's fine.
You can, but I haven't been, doing it.
What about dairy?
No,
No dairy.
no. Oh no, you can do dairy. Yeah, you can do dairy because you only eat one meal a day.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, and I've always believed in the one meal a day.
Me too. That's what's up.
That's what's up.
You were the first person interested with the warrior diet. You're like warrior diet book.
It makes sense. It's one meal a day because it's what gets me through it is, it keeps getting easier as I get cleaner. But you look forward to that one meal.
Yeah.
And then you eat it like around 5 or 6, and then before you go to bed, your stomach's empty again.
Yeah.
And then you take the last part of the cleanse. They give you this like cherry syrup. I mean, like tart cherry. It does all kinds of good stuff for you. And then this other cleanse when you go to bed.
I'm gonna have to check into that. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So.
All right. So boundaries.
So you're saying, you were just saying it's very complicated because if we already start out in chaos, then whatever we're building from that point, especially if we're getting bad information and eating a bunch of bullshit, like how do we get out of that?
Man, that's the matrix, right?
Yes.
How do we get out of it? Because we're born into lies, poison, and drugs. We're addicted to drugs. We're addicted to lies, and we're just confused. And it's getting worse now. Like when we grew up, we knew what a man and a woman was. Now these kids growing up these days don't even know what their sexuality is. What's a man? What's a woman? What's the difference? So, yeah, I guess we just got to. That's the reality. The reality on Earth is we're born into a mess. So as soon as you realize that, then it's going to be up to you. There's no one to blame. This is the game we're playing, right? This is the game of life on Earth. So it's up to us to step out. The only way I really know is fasting. Like go to the woods, go camping, break free, fast. I also do recommend in the right way and in the right place and time and around the right people, certain medicines like mushrooms or acid. Those can help you don't do it every day. Don't take a Superman dose, but they can help you expand your awareness of what's going on because there's a lot more going on than what our senses can ascertain. And so if you've never done it, I do recommend it. Take a journey to see all that. And that can kind of show you like, oh, wait a minute, there's more than what I thought. And so that can be helpful. Fasting. Woo. Fasting is big. Fasting, we're gonna definitely do many. We're going to talk about fasting many times.
Because again, it's about energy. I have more energy. And if I'm trying to unravel these mysteries, it takes energy.
For instance, here's a lie that most people believe is that you're going to die if you don't eat or drink for 3 days, right? That's not true. I know that's not true because I've done it multiple times. I've gone 5 days without eating or drinking. And they were the most profound cleanses that I ever had. And let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty. You still urinate every day. Like clockwork, in the morning and in the evening, without drinking anything. It's fascinating. I still have energy to walk around. Now, I'm not saying it was fun. It wasn't fun. You go through a lot of cleansing. It's very rapid. And I don't recommend everybody just diving into it. It's called dry fast. Don't just dive into that. I recommend if you want to cleanse, do something like Purium. That's cool. That's a good way to ease into cleansing. It's like it's guided step by step. So that would be like the first way I would recommend. And then maybe do a juice fast, 2-3 days. Then, go back to eating and then do a water fast, distilled water, a couple days and do that for a while. And then maybe try a dry fast, like a 1-day, 48-hour dry fast. And then maybe try, there's so many different cleanses. They're all going to be helpful. But I'll tell you what, water fasting is the most powerful, except for dry fasting. That is the most powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point because like you need energy to, and two, like as you were saying. So once you because to me, understanding the real world that I'm living in, not what I've been told, what I've observed, what I've heard
not
from people I respect, seen success, seen outcomes. Now I know that you need a lot of energy to unravel this.
Yes.
You need a lot of energy. And plus, once you acknowledge what it is, and that's what I'm saying, all I can do is have self-knowledge of myself, my purpose, and create my boundaries as I go into this chaos, right?
Yes.
'Cause I'm going into this chaos of people who think this and all the silly things, or all kinds of people,
Yeah.
traumatized people. And I'm trying to, even in the space of women trying to date, you don't even know what you're dealing with. So many levels. All you have is self-knowledge and your boundaries.
Yes.
And that's how you carve it out and find out who's who.
Yes. And like you said, it is about energy. So fasting is great because it really allows your body to heal everything. Your body is way smarter than you. It's way smarter than any doctor. It knows exactly what's going on. It knows the order of importance of everything going on in your body. So when you take a break from eating and drugs and all that stuff, then your body just goes into healing mode. And it's not fun. It's a process. But when you finish fasting and then you go back to eating, right? That's when you reap the rewards. And the reward is energy, emotional energy, physical energy, mental energy, and clarity. And then you have the energy to tackle things you've always wanted to do. You have inspiration. You can go for your dreams. You can think about complicated things like cryptocurrency. You know what I mean? You can be like before in your normal life, you're like, it's crypto, NFT. And you're like, you start to think about it and like you get tired, your brain hurts. You're like, I'm not going to think about that. When you have energy, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go and peruse it and start to absorb this new information. Or let me, what's this going? There's a conflict going on in Russia, and the news is like lie, and you just want to believe them because you don't have the energy to go ascertain it. Or they're like, take this shot because it's blah 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 blah, and you're like, okay, I guess and you think, let me go investigate, and you start to read, and you get tired and bored. And you're like, no, you don't have the energy for that stuff. When you do these cleansing, though, you have the energy to tackle anything that is possible for a human being. And yeah, so that's why it's essential.
You can push yourself again.
Yes.
Push yourself. Energy. You can have energy that keeps you plateaued, but do you want the energy that you can push and explore and in all areas?
Yeah. Start a new business. You know what I mean? Start a new business takes so much energy. And it's not just physical, it's mental and emotional energy. It takes emotional energy to put yourself at risk and be vulnerable and fail. Like, even to go out, to start dating again. These things take a lot of energy on all these levels. Cleansing and fasting will give you that energy.
Yes. Because it all starts with energy. And if your energy has been skewed from day one, it's your duty. You need to make it your business to understand this shit. Yes. Because you're already aging. Now you're just accelerating aging. And then, like you were saying, you were like, I mean, how could I tackle anything if I don't have energy? And then it connects to the other thing we were saying. Is like with very low battery energy, it's hard to seek out and use my critical thinking. I want to believe the fairy tale because it's easier.
Oh yeah,
because I don't have energy.
The fairy tale takes less energy to believe because the belief, the thinking is already done for you.
Right.
For you to, I love what you're saying too. It's like you got to go out into the world, know that there's chaos. You got to go into the chaos with the knowledge that you have gained yourself, not the knowledge you've been told. You cannot trust any knowledge that you've been told on this planet. That's not the planet we live on. It's not this fairy tale where you can trust really anything. Sometimes it's true, often it's not. So you must use your logic and you must listen all around and see does it make sense with what I've observed, with what I feel, with what is logical. And as you grow older, you get better and better at discerning what is true, what is not true. And I'll tell you this, what you see on mainstream media is not true. What you read in mainstream media is not true. It's almost never going to be completely true. There will most of the times be some truth mixed with like false paradigms, tons of implications of falseness. It's designed to keep you weak, tired, and dependent.
Right. On things that aren't actually effective in living a real life.
And they count on you being tired and forgetful. So they'll tell you one thing, and 3 months later, they'll tell you another thing that completely contradicts what they said before. And you'll just forget what they said before. And you'll just be like, and then there's like that cognitive dissonance. They'll be like, oh, so you believe this? Be like, yeah. Well, what about this? Like just the other day, I was talking with someone, a woman. I was red pilling her.
Ooh.
She handled it really well. Really well.
Okay.
So she was like, it was a woman I just started seeing. And we were driving back from a weekend. It was a good trip. We did some dancing. And then she was like something about, somehow Trump came up. And I was like, yeah, I like Trump. And she goes, oh, yeah, right. I was like, no, I like Trump. And she was like,
I know most people can't even believe it. They can't even believe it. Like, I didn't just, do this with this guy and he's thinking that way.
she was like, oh, yeah, that's funny. I was like, no, I'm serious. She's like, pull over.
Wow.
She was joking,
okay.
but she was like, she took it like a few minutes to realize. And then I was like, yeah, I like Trump. And I was like, do you like Biden? And she's like, I was like, did you vote for Biden? She's like, yeah. Do you regret that vote? She's like, no. And I was like, okay, well, she's like, why do you like Trump? And so I told her why. Boom. I like it because of this, that, this. He would help black people. How did he help black people? Well, there's opportunity zones. There was these loans he gave for black people. There was he helped people get out of jail that were like non-violent criminal, like all this stuff. I had facts, right? Why do you like Biden?
Exactly.
And then we started. So then we're deeper, right? And then there was like, and I go, and she had actually worked with Beto, which is the Democrat governor, or he ran for governor here. So she'd worked for his campaign. So I'm like, why do you like Beto? She goes, well, I don't like the governor of Texas. I was like, why? And she started talking about, I don't like what he did for schools. And I was like, why? I just want to know, right? Talk to me. And she was like, well, I don't like how he handled the school shooting, blah, blah, blah. And so she's a teacher, and it got, she got triggered by those horrible tragedies. You know what I mean? But the reality is they don't happen a lot. Even though she was like, Texas is leading it. Still, you probably are more, I don't know what the actual detail numbers are, but you're probably more likely to get hit by lightning than get shot as a teacher.
That's a fact.
In a school shooting. So it's not something that you should realistically worry about, but we're not realistic beings. That's fine. I get it. You're close, you're emotional, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So fine. You don't like how he handled it. And then we start talking about abortion. And she's like, I also I can't believe that it's, abortion is illegal here and I have to go to New Mexico. And I was like, well, when do you think the cutoff should be? I don't know. Well, when do you think the cutoff is in these countries? I don't know. I said, you know what late-term abortion is? She goes, what's that? I go, that means they allow you to have an abortion all the way up to 9 months, even up to birth. Have the birth, then kill it. She's like, that's not true. I go, it's not true? No, that's not true. Look it up. I mean, and then I was like, so we should look it up. It's true. Virginia, California, different states. I don't have the whole list. I'm not an expert on this, but different states have these laws where it's legal. So every Democrat politician, they always answer the same about this. But yeah, there's laws in America that will allow you to abort a baby even after it's born. Okay. So when she heard that, she was like, she didn't believe for a while, looked it up. She was like, oh my God. And then it was like, she had to reevaluate everything. It's just amazing how people are just so ignorant. I was like, so you were campaigning? And I was like, so what's Beto's stance? She's like, I don't know. I was like, I bet you his stance is like every other Democrat, not every other, but almost every other, right? I bet Tulsi Gabbard is not on that clique. But everyone who's in the Democrat group, they're all on the board with this that are politicians. And they all answer the same when you ask them. They go, you know what they say? You go, what's your stance on abortion? You know what they say?
What?
They go, I'm not a doctor. This is a decision that should be handled between a doctor and a patient. And I was like, that's what they all say. She's like, no, I don't believe that. I was like, well, what's Beto's stance? Let's find out. And so we found out. I was like, I bet you he says that. Exactly what he said. And she was stunned. But this is all readily available information. So a lot of these people were just going around half-cocked, all these passionate beliefs, ignorant. You know what I mean?
Man, and that's another thing. I mean, it happens with men, but mostly with women, I'm finding out, not all, but that when you ask them, they'll basically, when they hear a fact, and you call them on it to specifically tell why you don't believe that, they have no answers for the most part. It's pretty consistent, just like you said with the politicians, how they answer those questions. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying all, no, but it's
men too, though. It's many men. It's
many men too, but they're betas, and if if they're not critical thinkers, it's just as bad as anything. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. But it just seems like a woman has a proclivity for that because, facts, well,
they're more, feminine and
they
more
think
emotional.
Through emotion.
Yeah.
And so when you hit them with a fact and it goes against the narrative and their ego is invested in that, right? then they're like shocked and they don't believe and they're saying no, and then you call them out on it. And but you also too to another thing that certain men do with women, and they shouldn't do, all of us shouldn't do it, is when they say something like that, you got to challenge them. But then again, what's happening is most men won't do that because they probably won't get laid.
Yeah.
That's a real fact.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real fact.
Yeah.
So you talk about abortion, you say I believe in it. Like I said, if I was a woman, I would want the choice. But you know, and I look at it that way. I don't believe in it. I say maybe a person has one time to do it if something happens, you know, and you can't afford it or this or that. You get one. You don't use that ever again. And plus, I would implore people to go look at an abortion actually being done.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for your soul to hide. You know, on every part of your bone in your body, it's wrong. It's pulling this thing out. It's breaking apart. You're ripping its arm off.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
And find out. Yeah. If I don't want to, I would be in a place where it's like something where it's like there's a very defined day when, like, you know, I like the heartbeat rule actually. As soon as the heart's beating, too late, done. And before that though, you need to get educated. So you're gonna find out, what exactly happens. Here's what happens. We go in and we crush
Look at it.
and then talk to women. Yeah, look at it, see it, you have to talk to like 4 women, 2 who are happy they got abortions and 2 who are happy they didn't get abortions. So now you're fully educated. Now, okay, you still want it? Go ahead, as long as it's within the window. That's something I would be doing something like that.
But you find like most women, you know, won't look at it. Like this one chick was going out there showing it. Here's the video where you sit down and look at it. They'll leave the room.
Yeah.
Because they know once they see it, there's nowhere for their soul to hide.
Ooh.
It's straight up black and white. That's wrong. Never do it.
You know what would be an interesting study too? I wonder if anybody's done this. Is just to see how many women regret getting abortions and how many are had, like years after. So let's say like after once they're, you know, yeah, like in their 50s. Okay. Study of women in the 50s who got abortions. How many are happy they did? How many happy they didn't? That would be very interesting.
No, and two, like I find like, you know, certain women, you know, that are older, like if they're those women that can't admit that they were wrong, and I feel there's a lot of men and women, but once they have to acknowledge that that's wrong, where was I going with that?
Certain women who can't admit that they're wrong.
So they'll double down on it, and then they'll convince themselves and everyone else that shit tastes good, like because they have to believe it. They have to.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning of mental disease too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Because once you have to, you're convincing yourself. Like a lot of times, like when women are older, you know, and men, but I'm using women as this analogy, because I'm trying to learn about women, which is almost impossible. But you can at least look at the outcomes and study them. And so when women are older and they've got set in their ways and they can't find a man, what they'll have to do is say, well, I love my life the way it is. And basically they're convincing themselves that doo-doo, it tastes good and it's good and you should, you know, like it too, you know. So they have to convince that what their choices led
certain
them.
women do that. But then there's also a lot of people like, you know what? I messed up. You know who, I think it was, did you hear that girl who's just a singer? I forget who she was, like famous singer in one of those like pop groups. But it was like that pop group that was like
The Spice Girls?
Yeah, the Spice Girls girl.
Which one? The biracial one?
I think it was her. So, sorry, crowd, for not having the data, but I just read it like last week. But basically, she got raped, got an abortion, and now regrets it. She's like, I wish I'd had that baby.
Wow.
I know. I was like,
that's why you don't hear it. You don't hear it because you don't want you. That's why I don't know if it's being suppressed, but it would make sense that they suppress those things. The people that regret things,
the liberal media,
right? You know, because then that's a seed that's put into people that are believing nonsense. You know what I mean? For the most part. So they don't want to plant that seed. That's why it's always going to be get critical thinking, keep people away from how the world really works. Because if they understand that, then we have less power.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the bottom line. So yeah, I just love people that can admit. That's another part of like people like who can actually admit that they're wrong. And so she took that well. I mean, she actually like, when you saw that face that I love when people are getting new information and they can't run from it.
Oh, she did. You know what? I really enjoyed it because it never got heated. The only time she got emotional when she was talking about the school shootings, and she went to school the next day and was kind of like traumatized. Fair enough. You know, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a woman. So it's like, I get it. Like that you could be traumatized, even though it's not logical. It's like chances of it's not logical. But yeah, never got in. We'd had a discussion. Every time I brought up a fact, boom, I was like, so you still gonna vote? Would you vote for Biden again? She was like, basically, she was like, I have to spend some time thinking about this. I got to digest these. I was like, yeah, you just got red pills. She's like, okay, it's going to take time to digest these red pills. Exactly. I was like, that's cool. Yeah. She handled
this
it
is
well.
a teacher. Like, statistically, kids getting shot up in schools is so statistically insignificant. I mean, it's not insignificant, but it's not happening.
Statistically, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Statistically, it is. Most people are getting shot by handguns, you know, dying for other stuff. You know what I mean? So if you can look at it like that, and I'm finding that it's so hard for the emotional thinking of women to do that. I think it's because they need to be around the balance of the male. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that information, if you leave her to her own devices, she's going to want to. I think women are more prone to believe, like they say, men buy books that are, you know, nonfiction, and women buy fiction. Mm-hmm. But together, you need them both. We need them both. We need them both because they're very important pieces. But if a woman's left to her own devices, she's going to want to believe what she wants to believe. And this goes because I was listening to this podcast on the way, and I've seen this happen in many different podcasts. But rape will come up, right? And the minute if that person that female's been raped, she cannot hear the logic and the statistics. She can't, because now she's triggered and she's like, you don't understand what it's like. And you can't tell her, hey, that's just your experience. It doesn't reflect what's actually happening.
You mean like because she starts hating men
or no, she wants to say, so when I got raped and I started seeing that the other women and then they were getting raped, and then in her mind, it's running rampant.
Oh,
right. It's happening more. And then it's not being reported and all this. As a critical thinker, you know, and the guys who try to approach it critically say, you know, there's probably a few types of situations that actually happen. The females that lie and manipulate with it.
That's one.
Then there's the females that were flirting with a guy and then let it go too far. And then the guy started getting too rough and doing stuff. And then she had to go through with it. And then she didn't like what happened, you know, and she felt some type of way about it. But, and then there's the women that actually get raped. Right. So all those three are getting all mired up.
Yeah.
You know,
one's borderline.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find. But like there's ones where like the dude she never met before, he follows her home. But that's okay.
So there's that. And statistically, 100%. That's happening not as much as
the other two murky ones. Yeah.
So there's the manipulators and then the ones that were flirtatious with the guy and didn't know he was an asshole. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'd say that's wrong. A man should be able to stop on a dime.
Yes.
And should respect that woman.
Yes.
But it happens.
It does happen.
And then, so next time, maybe you'll say as a woman, and I think that one happens the most. That's the one that happens the most.
The one where they're messing around.
Where she's flirting and she's like, you know, playing with her powers, and then it gets out of hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that one happens the most.
And alcohol.
Alcohol, all that stuff. Yeah. So that one happens the most. There's the manipulative females.
They're just lying.
Just lying.
Yeah, that probably doesn't happen all that often, but
it has a
it's
place.
in there. It's
probably like the same with the actual rape victims. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other ones in between mucking the waters up. But women don't have to realize like a lot of it's your fault. So next time, don't get drunk. Understand your boundaries with men. Start to move a little more cautious, and you know, with clarity. You know what I mean? So you know, getting drunk. Not every guy out there has control. You cross him over, it's over. He's having sex tonight. You know what I mean?
Which is not right.
Which is not right at all.
No.
But they have to be aware, and a lot of females fight that one because they say he should be able to stop on a dime. I know the world should be a perfect place, but you have to go in there armed with knowing there's guys out there that have no control.
Yeah, and you should not be getting drunk with a strange man alone and making out and let you know.
So that's what critical thinking leads you, so you can actually be effective and understand what's actually happening. You know, and statistically, how she handled that, if she goes back and sits, that doesn't happen as often as people get shot with handguns.
Yeah.
That's happening more than anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we talked about guns too. And stuff. Yeah, so that was cool. It was good. She was a critical thinker, could handle it. I enjoyed it. All right, I think that was a good episode. We touched a lot of topics.
We're letting you know who we are. You know, this is what we're about. You know, critical thinking, truth. What actually is going to help you be effective in the real world as it exists, no matter what you think.
Yes.
Or want to believe.
Don't trust anybody, or don't trust us. Don't trust the news. Don't trust anybody. Listen, ascertain, use your logic, base it upon your experiences, what makes sense to you. Go do your own testing. Go do your own experiments. We are all scientists on this journey of life that I don't think anyone really understands fully. So just try to understand what you can, and move forward and love the truth. That's what I recommend. Fall so deeply in love with the truth that it's never even a temptation to lie or believe in a lie.
And the truth is going to help you have a very fulfilling life.
Yes. The truth is sacred. The truth is firm ground that you can stand on through any storm. Lies, woo, unstable, baby. Unstable.
It'll seduce you, and before we go, let's just think about it. So if you invest in a lie, I think what happens is you waste a lot of time.
Ooh, yes, you do.
I think that's the real crime, because tick tock, tick tock. So if you're believing in something that's not yielding outcomes that you're looking for, and you're still doing it, and you're not going to get anything. Real knowledge is going to allow you to apply it and see real results. There it is.
Go.
You know? So.
All right, Dan.
We out.
Holla!